Hey, thanks for making it to Veterans Info Tap. I'm glad you made it. What I'm going to share with you is a really good example of finding evidence to prove your case. It also becomes rationale for a Nexus letter. So please follow along with me. This just came out, and this could actually affect you, impact you, your life, and so forth. And so it's important to follow along here. Please hit the thumbs up, subscribe, share with a friend, all that good stuff. I truly appreciate it. So even if this isn't specifically to you, the idea of using this type of information as evidence and rationale for your doctor to provide a Nexus letter is huge. You can't even put a dollar figure to it because it is that important. Finding anything to create that link between your illness and your services is instrumental in winning, right? Now, if you need a Nexus letter and your doctor won't do it, you can use AME, that's American Medical Experts. I'll put a link in the description and the comments. You'll get a free consultation from them, so check them out. All right, so here's the news. This is directly from the VA. Montana real estate agent admits failure to provide lead-based paint disclosures to veterans residing in rental housing at Fort Harrison. All right, so I'm going to read through this. This, again, is from the VA, and there's a couple different. I'm going to read the other headline here, and then we'll jump into it. Another headline is Montana company admits filing false claims for payment for abatement of lead paint in housing for veterans at Fort Harrison. All right, so what does that mean? That means that if you were there, you could potentially have been exposed, right, to lead paint and all of its fun aftermath, right? So what I pulled up here is just to give an example, right? Here's the thing. Again, if you find anything like this, whether it's asbestos, lead paint, some sort of a toxic exposure, anything like that that gets documented and bubbles up, grab it, use it if it applies to you, take it to your doctor's rationale for that Nexus letter. So what can lead paint lead to? Well, lead paint exposure can cause a variety of illnesses in both children and adults, including brain damage, kidney damage, high blood pressure, cardiovascular problems, preterm birth, reduced fetal growth, miscarriage, memory loss, mood changes, sleep issues, headaches, tingling, and numbness. All right, so there's a bunch of the fun things that can come with it. And again, here's the idea. The idea is that, look, if this affects you, if this is something that you potentially had dealt with because you were at Fort Harrison, well, then here's some information. If you have any of those things, maybe it's due to your exposure to lead paint. Now, if it's not you and you were never at Fort Harrison, well, this should open up the mind a little bit, and it can maybe help you get the information that you need for your service-connected aspects. Now, remember, I'm gonna jump into it's two little tiny paragraphs here beyond the headlines. But before I do, think about this. The idea of getting your Nexus letter completed using this as rationale is helpful, right? If you have those types of symptoms, maybe due to the lead paint, they can tie it all together. They're like, yes, this is what it is. Great, you get that Nexus letter. The Nexus letter helps you to establish the service connection. The next piece of the pie is the severity, right? You need to clearly document the severity of your condition so that way the VA can appropriately rate you. Are you a 10%? Are you a 30? Are you a 50? Where do you fall on the rating schedule? The DBQ, Disability Questionnaire, can help put all that in the right format for you. You can ask your doctor, your provider to do it. Same thing with the Nexus letter. If they can't do it or don't do it, or you're not happy with maybe it was a lackluster result and you feel like it needs to be a little more meaty, again, AME, the link's in the description and the comments, free consultation. Information's free. Have the conversation. See if it's something that might make sense. All right, so jumping into that first one, the Montana real estate agent admits failure to provide lead-based paint disclosures to veterans residing in rental housing at Fort Harrison. Melanie Ann Carlin, a real estate agent and property manager in Helena, pleaded guilty to one felony count of knowing endangerment for failing to provide lead-based paint disclosures as required to veterans residing in housing at Fort Harrison. As a result, veterans and their families were exposed to significant levels of lead. Right? Evidence. This is evidence, right? Carlin faces a maximum penalty of 15 years in prison and a $250,000 fine and at least 3 years of supervised release. Sentencing is set for March 4th, 2025. The VA OIG, the EPA OIG, and the EPA's Criminal Investigation Division and the Department of Housing and Urban Development investigated this specific case. The next one. Montana company admits filing false claims for payment for abatement of lead paint and housing for veterans at Fort Harrison. So, Mold Wranglers Incorporated, a Kalispell-based company that provides hazardous material mitigation services, admitted to filing false requests for payment to the VA. The company claimed an abatement of lead paint was completed at Freedom's Path, Fort Harrison. Great. Now we know the location, right? So Freedom's Path, Fort Harrison. If you lived there, you might want to just check the list of conditions, see if any of those ring true. Have a conversation with your doctor. Get that Nexus letter in DBQ. Again, if your doctor won't do it or doesn't supply enough meat and potatoes in that, then reach out to AME and get that free consultation and see if it makes sense. I'll tell you that if you utilize your primary doctor, great, but they're probably not VA experts, so you're going to need to bring them up to speed and let them know exactly what you need from them for a successful Nexus letter and DBQ. All right, so let's read through this. So at Freedom's Path, Fort Harrison, that is the rental housing units for veterans. When it was not completed, they said they did it anyway, right? The company pleaded guilty to information charges of one felony count of False Claim Act conspiracy. Jonathan Carpenter, owner of the company, represented Mold Wranglers. The company faces a maximum fine of $500,000 and restitution of approximately $456,000. The VA OIG, the EPA OIG, the EPA's Criminal Investigations Division, and the Department of Housing and Urban Development investigated the case. So again, number one, if you were there, it's good for you to know. If you know somebody there, it's good to let them know. If you weren't there, you don't know anybody there, this should open up your eyes to different ways that you can gather evidence for your conditions and utilize that to be part of the rationale that you could submit, right, for your Nexus letter. And then subsequently, you definitely want to get a DBQ to outline the severity of your condition for the appropriate rating. With that, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate every single one of you. Have a great one. And remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.